Hey everybody, welcome to Pete Carroll Was Right, the confusingly named Alabama football live video show. As always, it's Carter, Ben, and Mitch here to talk all things Alabama football with you. We are coming off another just absolute destruction of an admittedly not terribly talented, but just an absolute devastation of a conference opponent. They have now outscored opponents 125-3 in the last 2 weeks, which is pretty absurd. And then going into a game this week in College Station against A&M, which I will be attending. I'm very excited about that, to see a game at Kyle Field for the first time. Hopefully one that won't be particularly close, so that should make it more enjoyable. But yeah, Ole Miss. It was they weren't necessarily as clean on offense at times as they were against Vanderbilt. The offensive line wasn't quite as dominant, but they still ended up with I think like 48 non-kneel rushes for something like 350 yards. So ultimately ended up being pretty good. I don't think they gave up a sack.
I thought they were
5 sacks on defense, which was nice.
Yeah, I thought I thought they had a lot of success running Jalen. This is just talking about when the game was technically still undecided.
Yeah.
I thought they didn't have a ton of success running Damien or Bo, and I thought they had a really good deal of success running Jalen, either on option plays or design runs. Like when their last touchdown before the half, I think Jalen hit them on a design keeper for like a whole bunch of yards, for like 40 yards, and then the next play ran in an option play up the middle for like 12 yards. And he had a few other really nice runs, not necessarily scrambles too.
He ended up with like 10 carries for 100 yards.
Yeah.
And, I think Damien had one big run, but then Bo had like 6 carries for 18 yards on the game. They didn't know what, like, Jalen was the leading rusher in terms of carries with 10 carries in this game. So they were definitely kind of spreading the ball around in that regard.
So it's clear that Old Miss game plan wise was trying to really stack up against the run here. I think this is probably a good opportunity to talk about Jalen specifically. And it was a pretty interesting first half for him, right? Initially, I thought he played pretty poorly. And when I say initially, I just mean the first 2 drives. He overshot Robert Foster. That was a really, really bad throw. He just didn't give him a chance to catch. Then on the 3rd down, he had Calvin on like a deep cross, and I think that ball was catchable, maybe.
It hit Calvin, Calvin got up to it, but it was a really high throw.
Right.
Bring it down. And
then the second drive was when Jalen made that really bad play in the red zone on what should have been an interception. Yeah, so that was bad. But then right after that, I think you could argue that Jalen maybe strung together some of his best series of the year.
Yeah, AL.com did a little breakdown of this, but like after those 2 drives, I think he had like 9 straight completions, some of which were just on the whole, that stretch was about as advanced a passing quarterback as he's ever looked. He was hitting, second, third reads on all parts of the field. He was really delivering some great balls, spreading it around to a bunch of different receivers. He just looked great.
Did any particular throws stand out to you guys?
The Cam Sims one?
That's mine.
Yeah.
That was a great throw. He was patient. He climbed the pocket. He threw a strike. I mean, and he gave, not only did he put the ball on Cam Sims, but he gave Cam Sims an opportunity to make a lot of yards after the catch, which he did. I mean, that was like that was good. I continue to be impressed, and this is such a small thing, but I continue to be impressed by how well Jalen throws screens. He really does a very good job. The receiver screens are not the same part of the game plan this year as they were under Lane, but he puts his receivers in a position to really be successful after the catch. He had a couple to Calvin. He had the one to Robert Foster that Robert Foster had a big gain on. Robert Foster, by the way, is really fast.
Really,
He's really fast.
fast.
He is fast. He seriously is. I mean, we saw that Colorado State game, and then it was like, whew. It was like just from there, you kind of. I'm really happy for him that he's getting more involved.
And he had one throw. It was not necessarily his most impressive throw, but I loved that after he had the bad overthrow of Calvin that we talked about on the first drive. He later hit Jerry Jeudy on a
little like a corner route or something, right on the left side. Yeah. Jeudy, by the way, is very involved, which I like. Yeah. It seems like he's clearly sort of separated himself from the other two freshmen, and which is what we expected, I think, going into the year.
That was sort of the buzz.
He's super talented, and he's really fun. He's very explosive. Also, it didn't end up getting them anything. But how about the throw that he made? I think it was to Ruggs when he sort of bought time moving to his left. It was the play that was initially ruled targeting. I mean, that was a great play. That should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, no. And we just talk like last week about how Jalen's not necessarily good when he sort of scrambles outside of the pocket and tries to make a sort of Aaron Rodgers, backyard throw down the field. Well,
that was a pretty good one. I don't know if I'd want to see that. Yeah, it worked out well. Mitch, what stood out to you about Jalen's performance overall?
I mean, I just like seeing things that we hadn't seen before, and now it's more just wanting to see it more often, I think.
So what specifically?
Like better pocket presence a little bit, and when he moves around, he keeps his eyes downfield. It seems his ball look a little bit better coming out of his hand. There's not wobbly so.
I think the pocket presence thing is a really good point.
Yeah.
I thought that Jalen, not necessarily consistently, because I'm not saying he was doing it on every drop back, but I thought that Jalen maneuvered in the pocket in this game as well as we've seen him maneuver in the pocket since he's been here. I really liked a couple of these throws where he really did seem to climb the pocket when given the opportunity. He didn't bail out and leave, which is something that we've been talking about on earlier podcasts this year. And like Mitch said, he stays in the pocket. He maneuvers in the pocket to create some space for him, to create throwing lanes. And he keeps his eyes downfield. And I thought that was really good. If he does that, he's going to be a really dangerous player. And this offense could be pretty unstoppable. So I think
he sort of continues to show that, right from the beginning of the year, he had throws for less than 100 yards against Florida State, and people were like, "Oh, he's the same quarterback he was last year." And we were like, you look really specifically at how he played, and there are a couple of hints that, despite the fact that the stat line didn't look great, there were a couple signs that he had really was a much improved quarterback. And now that's just really, as he's gotten more and more snaps this season, that's really coming out that those things were not. You talked about how good he was climbing the pocket, but then you think about that throw he had, one of his really good throws against Florida State, where he did that so well. And so it shows you that those things weren't a fluke. And this is
the third down throw to Calvin.
That he's really made major progress here.
Yeah, and this is something that we talked about immediately after Florida State, maybe even before Florida State, I don't remember. But what we said was that we were not going to sit here and guarantee that Jalen is an improved quarterback. But if Jalen is an improved quarterback, we weren't really going to see it much against Florida State.
Right.
We did see some things in terms of the big-time throws. But overall, we kind of knew that if there was going to be big improvement this year, it wasn't necessarily going to manifest itself in that first game against Florida State, for a whole host of different reasons with which we've covered. And at least to my eye, we really are seeing a much improved quarterback.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't think that we're seeing, a spectacular passing quarterback or anything, but that was never the expectation. The bar was never set there. Right? I think we're seeing somebody who's made market improvements in a number of different quarterbacking areas that relate to both his both sort of the mental side, right, to the position, and also the actual throwing aspect to the position.
Right. And remains as dangerous as ever as a runner.
He Yeah, he almost honestly, I don't know. He looked almost a little bit more explosive as a runner against Ole Miss. Jalen has this thing sometimes where it almost seems like he's like half running, right? When he on some of these runs, but he looked maybe even a little more explosive than usual against Ole Miss, where he was just like really flying down the field. It seemed like on some of these runs.
Yeah, he did. He looked. He tends to be a very patient runner,
Yeah,
which works out well a lot of the times. But occasionally, occasionally on scramble when he just decides to tuck it and run, it just seems like he's kind of, trying to juke around a little bit and find a hole and break something where, if you're going to scramble, you might as well just, take the couple yards that are in front of you. He looked aggressive.
super aggressive.
Which was really nice to see. And when he gets the holes that he's going to sometimes, I love to see him be really decisive about when he's going to take off and run, because he can do a lot of damage that way.
I also think they played very well in pass pro. Jalen seemed they really sort of kept a clean pocket, I think, for a lot of that, for a lot of the first half, at least, when the game was still in the balance. So just overall, the passing game really seemed to function at a pretty high level. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, which is something we mentioned right before Vanderbilt, was this idea of incorporating Josh Jacobs in a way in which he's not the only running back on the field, right? So incorporating him in two ways. First of all, incorporating him as playing alongside either Damien or Bo, and incorporating him in the passing offense. Now, you saw some glimpses of that against Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And then you saw maybe not fully formed against Ole Miss.
Yeah, he didn't get a ton of touches. I think it's still clear they're kind of working him back, but
certainly moving in the right direction. So that's such a dangerous weapon, right? Because you force teams to worry about so many different things outside the hashes with all these receivers. But then if you have a threat, I love the idea of a somewhat vertical passing threat coming out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Like the stressors that puts on all different areas of the defense is going to be really, really good for Alabama going forward, I think.
Yeah, the role we had sort of hoped Kenyon Drake would have
exactly
in 2014 before
he got hurt.
Leg, yeah.
But I don't know if Lane was. I don't think that was going to happen under Lane anyway. I don't think we've seen just in this game, we saw Jacobs used in very creative ways in which Lane never used any of his backs.
Yeah. Other than that one play against Florida
That's okay. That's a good point. I don't want to take that away from that.
That was sort of what I was thinking. I am 100% certain that Lane would have never used Kenyon in the ways that Dable is going to use Jacobs.
Right.
But after that play happened, I think we all sort of hoped for a role kind of like that for Kenyon.
Right.
I don't know.
Even this is more creative though, in that you're attacking the defense with him coming out of the backfield. It's a lot easier. Alabama going back all the way to McElwain was flexing out running backs and tight ends. Now Lane with Drake in this one play that you're talking about on that opening play against Florida, they used him as a real threat. But flexing out the backs and the tight ends is something that Alabama's done here under Saban forever.
Right.
But what they haven't done, and the screen game, right? Under previous offensive coordinators, the running back screen game was a lot bigger than it was under Lane. But I don't think that they ever had the running backs attacking sort of vertically down the field, right? In any under any offensive coordinator.
Do you ever remember a long pass to a running back?
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's a very, and this is sort of a cheap way to talk about it, but it's a very Patriots thing. It's a very, very Josh McDaniels type of thing, and that's sort of an easy connection to make, but. It's very much the way they run their offense. They love to do these sorts of things where you come out in 21 personnel, and it looks like you're going to run the ball, and then all of a sudden the backfield's empty.
Right.
You're going 5 wide, or you might have 4 receivers in the back, and then you slip the back out, and he runs a vertical route anyway. Like they do these things where they kind of fool you with what they do compared to what the personnel makes it look like they're going to do.
And the truth is, in my opinion, is that this can even, like, as effective as the Pats have used their running backs in the passing game, Alabama this year could be 10 times as effective as that, just because there's so many more opportunities to create big plays at the college level for a number of different reasons than there is at the NFL level. So, like, if this has a chance to really open up a lot of passing lanes and a lot of plays down the field for them. And I think the Patriots comparison is a great one. You think about guys like Shane Vereen, Tevin Falk, that's sort of the mold of Josh Jacobs. The Pats have always been a team that had those sort of 3 running backs and would use them all in pretty well-defined roles, and all playing roles that weren't just like this guy is this guy's backup and this guy is this guy's backup, but really that they all had almost like starter roles, but just different. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's what you're seeing. That's what you're starting to see in terms of them being able to use all 3 running backs and get the most out of them possible.
Yeah.
While we're talking about it, that play on the goal line to the tight end was very Patriots.
Which one are we talking? Are you talking about the RPO?
The one to how do you say?
Henches. Yeah. Henches. So now I'm trying to think back. That was a post-snap read, wasn't it? On that play?
I think so.
I'm honestly not sure if it was that or if it was just straight up play action.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was what you think he was reading the inside back.
I can't remember.
One that you kind of toss it over his head.
Yeah, I'd like to see it again.
Let me see if I can.
Can we all pull it up?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So that was that the 3rd touchdown?
Here
it is.
I think it was the 3rd touchdown.
We could show it.
See.
we go. I think I found it.
Yeah, watch Brad. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong play.
It is the 3rd touchdown. It's 14-0.
It's interesting because you have Pierce Baker pulling, right? You guys on it yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to show it? Like,
can we do that?
Yeah. Let me do screen share. There we go. I'm gonna make it a little less inception-y.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So Pierce Baker is pulling.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's an RPO. It doesn't guarantee it. But that's interesting. Can we see it from Jalen's perspective? Do they show a replay? I feel like they showed a replay later on.
I've said this before. I would murder for college all 22.
Oh yeah.
We saw that's the reverse Jalen angle.
Damn, that pistol celebration is swag as hell.
I love it. I love the finger guns. It's like a little Russell Westbrook.
For my money, way better than the Deshaun Watson bow and arrow.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I don't
know if that's an RPO. Who do you think he's reading?
That's a very good question.
It might be number 3. Is all I can think.
Yeah. Number 3 would be the guy, the backer closest to Henches.
Because
I mean, right away, because like you have the impact of when Pierce Baker pulls, that guy steps up.
Yeah.
Now, you might not even, RPO there might not even be necessary. Alabama probably knows that when they pull the guard around, he's going to step up, and then you just dump it over the top. Either way, it's a sort of very effective action in order to manipulate the middle linebackers there and create opportunities.
I'll let that run. We can look at the touchdown pass to Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, let's see that. Yeah.
Which is a beautifully designed play because they faked the handoff and then he went vertical.
Yeah. Well, look at this and they pointed this out on the broadcast. If we can go back, watch the way he pauses. Jacobs is so patient there in terms of sort of delaying getting out in his route and letting the entire play flow to the right and all the defenders flow to the right. Look at he just waits and then goes.
Yeah, he really sells that he, like, even after it's obvious that it's play action, he sells that he's going in to help the blocking.
Exactly. And then you release downfield. And I love the idea I love how they moved Jalen, first of all, to buy him more time, because all you really need in that play is time, right? You do need a lot of time because it's a slow developing play, but I love how they pull him to buy him more time and also to sort of suck the defense further in toward that side of the field. I mean, that's so beautifully designed.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And I like the little land shark there.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Oh, and then this I think was an option play, right? On this touchdown.
That's an inverted veer. Yep.
And now this play, correct? They've got Jacobs. They got two backs on the field here, right? They got Jacobs is on Jalen's left, and who is that? Damian on his right. I mean, so many weapons on the field at one time there. That's really nice. Cotton pulls around. He doesn't even have anyone to block. There's nobody.
Yeah.
Really nice double team there, I think, by having a hard time seeing it. By
it's Williams and Pierce Baker.
Williams and Pierce Baker. And then Williams there, and then watch Williams peel back to get the second block on the linebacker. That's really impressive. That's like really, really impressive tackle play. That's nice. And Womack holds up well on the right side by himself. Yeah, I don't, the offensive line play, they weren't bad. And again, no negative plays, right? I mean, maybe not no negative plays, but you can probably count them on one hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think hold on, I can let me go to I'm trying to pull up the 5-factor box score here.
We got to do the screen sharing stuff on subsequent podcasts.
Yeah.
And look at plays, because this is cool.
Let's see.
I don't know why we're just starting doing this now.
Rushing stats. You can see my mouse, right?
Yeah.
So here's rushing stats. This is yards per carry. Line yards per carry is like basically the first 5 yards of every run. And this is Bill Connolly that puts these together, but this is Football Outsiders, kind of their terminology that they use for stuff. Line yards per carry is they attribute the first 5 yards of any rush to the offensive line, and kind of after that, it's the back.
Right.
But what we're looking for here is this last column, that's just stuff rate. So that's a percent of tackles that are made, percent of rushing plays that are stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. So Alabama was at 12% on offense, which I think is about. You can see that then the national average there is 21%. I think 12% is about what Alabama's average throughout the year, and that's been putting them at offensive stuff rate 11.6%, which is 4th in the country.
Yeah. So, see, that's so big for this offense. Now, and I know we'll talk about the schedule later. Clearly, they're not exactly playing the best competition, but you know what though? Even against Florida State, right? That was the one big thing that stood out against Florida State, was that they didn't allow negative plays. And if that's something that the offense is going to do, that they're going to be tough this year. gonna be really, really, really tough.
Sort of hilarious stat right here. So power success rate is like the percent, or when it's like 3rd or 4th and 1, and you're just trying to get that yard to get a first down or like get into the end zone or something like that. What percent of the time are those plays successful? Alabama defense, 100%, 129. They have yet to stop a 3rd or 4th and short. Which I'm certain is a function of small sample size.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's kind of a hilarious statistical quirk, given that they're 29th in overall success rate and 2nd in preventing explosive plays on rushing defense. But
yeah,
that was sort of amusing. Okay, I'm gonna pop back here. There we go.
So now the last thing I wanted to talk about, I think, with the offense, and again, it's great that this is a weekly occurrence, that you get a lot of the backups, and particularly the backup quarterback. It's so great that they're getting him so many reps, both just in case something happens to Jalen, right? Yeah. And also, for down the road. And he's playing 25 minutes a week.
Yeah. And he didn't. I think he only threw the ball 5 times this game. So not quite as much of a but again, looked extremely impressive. Well, he did. His first throw of the game was woof.
Yeah, not great.
Looked like a freshman for the first time since maybe I don't know when his first game action against Fresno State, but then came back out and was kind of the player we saw the week before.
Yeah.
And then he had a rushing touchdown, right, off an option play.
Yeah, and there was he did, and then there was another play. I think it was his first drive, or it was the first drive they scored a touchdown with him, where they kind of ran it down maybe inside the 5, and the Ole Miss defense wasn't sat, and Tua got them to the line real quick, and they ran it in again with Najee, and I was really impressed that he just had that sort of control over the offense to sort of get them there and get them ready and run it in there. So I thought he showed, he's for a freshman, and we saw the same things with Jalen last year, a real command over what the offense is doing. So I thought that was sort of nice to see. What was his final stat line?
I think 3 of 5, but
okay.
3 of 5 for 51 yards and a touchdown. 4 carries for 37 yards.
Pretty good. Pretty good. You guys have any other stuff to talk about the offense?
Here's Tua's touchdown. You can see they option this dude, the in man, on the line, and he crashes in, so Tua keeps it, and it's an easy touchdown.
And Najee really sells it too, staying with the play as if he's got the ball running into the pile. A lot of starters still on there too. Is that the whole? That's most of the starting. Is that the whole starting offensive line except for Jedrick there, at right tackle?
Yes, they kept they let Tua run it with basically the whole first team.
Yeah.
For his first couple drives before they started getting backups in. Got that touchdown to Ruggs was on a 4th down.
I guess one other thing is, Lester had a pretty decent game again this week.
Yeah. Lester had again one of his better games, and just continues to finally look like he's put it all together, which is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got to be pretty happy with where the offensive line is at as a whole. It seems like Womack maybe is kind of entrenched there now at right tackle. Do we want to sort of say that the competition's over?
Yeah, I would say so. It looks like they continue to work. They do a fair amount of using extra offensive linemen, and it's always Will's coming in.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like he's just gonna that Wills is just gonna straight up take the job.
It definitely seems like Wills is going to be a player at some point. I mean, because I think you got to be super happy with what you've seen from him. And I mean, next year if he's the tackle and you put him and Jonah sort of side by side, I mean that's got a chance to be a really good duo. But yeah, Womack
I'll be interested to see what they do next year because the only lineman that's going to be gone is
Bozeman. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I bet?
Well, you know, Piers Baker to center.
Yeah.
But see, the only thing that gives me pause about that, right, is they wanted to do that last year, didn't they? And then that it was last year when Piers Baker was the center throughout all of fall camp, and then they flipped it back like midweek before USC. But I assume though that he can definitely play the position.
I think he probably gets the first crack at least because Saban's huge on kind of playing your best five on the offensive line. You know, think about Barrett Jones moving to center to get Cyrus Kwanjo tackle. So I bet they'll. I don't know. You think Womack can play guard?
That's the interesting question. Womack or Wills? Who plays guard? And also, you still have Leatherhead too. Or sorry, leather. I say leather. What did I say?
Leatherhead. Better than Leatherface, I guess.
I don't know why I said that. Is there like a movie that's called that or something? Maybe.
I think there was an old like movie about not. I mean, it was from like a decade ago, maybe about like old time like football.
Yeah.
It was like
I realized as I said that I was like, wait a second. I was just gonna keep going on, and then I was like, pause, and I was like, wait, what did I just say?
Yeah, there we go.
But you still got you got like a lot of guys. I don't know. It's a good, obviously it's a really good sort of problem to have. Piers Baker has been there, it seems like, for like 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable to think that he still that he still has eligibility. That's incredible to me. Also, I think that he's having his best year so far. I know it's very early, but he looks like a better player. I wouldn't necessarily say he was a liability at times in the past, but he was he just didn't have the physical skills maybe that some of the other guys
we've
had.
covered it before. He's not the most physically gifted player in the world, but really playing great this year.
Yeah. Should we move on to defense?
Yep. Well, Deshaun Hand got hurt. That sucks. But it looked, that just sort of had me musing about how weird injuries can be sometimes in terms of how they look at the time. Because, that looked, he couldn't put any weight on that, and they had to cart him off, and, looked like his Alabama career was done. And then it turns out it's an MCL. But by the way, I think this started with Saban, and it keeps getting repeated. There's no such thing as an MCL strain. It's a sprain. But kind of find out it's just judging by the amount of time it's going to get out, probably just a grade 1 MCL sprain. Is pretty shocking. But then the next day, Dalvin Cook goes down with a non-contact injury for the Vikings, and he was up and walking on the sideline for a little bit before he went to the locker room, and then it turns out it's a complete ACL tear.
Right, he's done for the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just like, I mean, when he went down, I was just thinking like, okay, well, that's it, right? I mean, that's his season.
Yep.
So pretty fortunate there. What did you guys think of the let's look at the defense in parts, I guess. What did you guys think of the defensive line first off?
Well, they had 5 sacks, and 3 of those came from the defensive line. So
yes,
that, I think, is a positive. Now, Alma's offensive line is not that good, but it was nice to see the defense, the line itself really starting to affect the quarterback. I mean, I think what is they had. I can't even remember. I'm blanking on who actually had the sacks. Was it like Bugs had one, and like Deshaun and somebody split one, and
Avery Jennings had a forced fumble. That probably went down as a sack, right? Are you counting him along as defensive line?
Because
he forced a fumble.
No, okay, Bugs and Payne split one, and then Hand and Ray
Okay.
each had one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Minka and Ronnie had them off blitzes.
Okay. Yeah. So Payne played really well.
Yep.
This is another, he was great against Vanderbilt. I thought he was really good again against Ole Miss. So he's maybe starting to try to take that next step a little bit as being like the guy. I think I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when they face a better offensive line, but you're slowly the big concern, right, was the defensive line. I think that concern is easing off a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
How much?
I mean, we have, and I think we have to continue to going forward, except that this defensive line is just not going to wreak the same kind of havoc that the ones of the last 2 years have. But they continue to look better, I think.
These guys are good players.
Yeah, like Bugs had a great game, which is nice because they're going to have to count on him the next couple weeks with Deshaun out. I don't think for the first time in weeks we didn't have a highlight play from my boy Johnny Dwight, but
that's okay.
Raekwon played well. Apparently, LeBrian Ray got in the game, which I didn't see. But
After Hand got hurt, I think.
Yeah. But I think I feel comfortable with these guys. I know they're not gonna
blow you away.
Yeah, but they're solid, and they are going to get some pressures. Getting as much as we lump in the outside linebackers with the line, which I think is appropriate. Getting Anthony Jennings back has helped a lot more than
Me too. I totally agree.
He looks much more explosive than
he does.
Yep.
He doesn't. He gets off blocks. He separates. He doesn't finish the play block, which is a big thing for me with him. He's looked good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something to be excited about. I'm not saying that he's the next like Ryan Anderson or something, but I think that he could be a player. He could be a real player for them in terms of not just a guy who you want who's going to be solid and set the edge and all that, but he could make. I think he's showing the ability to maybe make some splash plays here going forward.
Yeah. Which is a really nice thing to have. Deshaun, was actually, I think, was playing one of his better games of the year before he got hurt. He looked
good. He looked explosive.
I think Cole Kublik diagrammed a play where he did a really great job of. I'm trying to even remember what it was. But he like stayed. It was like play action, and he just did a really good job of sort of hesitating on the back, and then just once it was clear that the back didn't have the ball, he just exploded after the quarterback. Let me see if I can find that play.
That's sort of a yearly thing. The Alabama front players are so impressive in their discipline in terms of playing potential ball catchers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you think back to something like Ryan Anderson's pick six in the playoff last year. They peel off and they help and they hesitate and they slow running backs and tight ends down so well. It never really ceases to amaze me how well they play their keys on stuff like that.
And they're always so quick to identify it.
Quick to identify. Yeah. Yeah. Mitch, what impressions did you have about the defensive line?
I mean, yeah, Payne just seems like kind of the guy that you have to mention every week, like the guys that you had to mention every week last year. Asking about concerns, I don't really have a lot of concerns about this defensive line until you get into the type of game that the national championship has been the last 2 years, and then maybe depth becomes a bit of an issue.
The idea of potentially having to stay on the field for running a lot I mean,
and I guess that's
yeah. In some sense, though, I'm not because I think they have that. I think it's fair to say that they have more guys they're comfortable playing this year.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. So
the depth that concerns me rather than just the lack of disruption, because you think about if this team is playing last year's Clemson team. They're not, I mean, the secondary is better, I guess, so that gives you some help. But
Weird.
they wouldn't be. This defense doesn't really have the same capacity to sort of get after a quarterback like Deshaun, like last year's team did.
Well, they certainly the first 40 minutes of that game, they were great, right? Yeah. And they certainly would not repeat that performance. This defense would not repeat that. That is a very just a quick aside. Very frustrating to me, the narrative that's been spun since that national championship game. It has been completely forgotten that the Alabama defense, when they were playing on a normal amount of snaps, was incredible in that game. They were so good for the first 40 minutes.
By the way, I took Alabama just published a new version of their record book, and a little thing you can find if you peruse that is that 99 plays is the most that has ever been run against Alabama.
That's crazy. It took all of. I mean, it took
literally down to that 99th play.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway,
I mean, they were really getting after Deshaun early, and they had him looking really uncomfortable for at least like.
They were so violent to start.
Ruben so committed. Violent. They were so violent. Ruben, I believe, took a shot, hit Deshaun high in the head.
Personal foul
on the first play. It was almost one of those situations where it was like, clearly that was the plan going in. We were willing to take a penalty early on here in order to really hope, in order to sort of rattle this guy. And it worked. And they were, I don't know, given the competition, given the quality of offense and the quality of the quarterback they're playing, I don't know if we've ever seen a Saban defense play that well.
Yeah. I mean, it took that offense, which was incredible, and they were looked didn't play great at times during the year, but when that team put it together, they were incredible on offense. Yeah. It took them 99 plays to get 35 points.
Right.
And most of 21 of those points came in the fourth quarter. So when the last of those plays are being run, it basically took the Alabama defense being absolutely gassed for that all-time offense to do anything against them.
And I don't think they ran anything close to 99 plays in any of their games during the year, which is like, so it's not even like what they did was common for themselves. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore. But it's so funny, like how the narrative of the defense gets impacted by that game, where they kind of get hurt by it. But in reality, that game should probably help show how good they were.
Yeah.
Right. It's an example kind of the opposite.
I mean, if they end up winning that game, that defense goes down as. Still should, but nobody will remember it this way. But that defense goes down as one of, if not the best of all time. They were just
an all-time great. Yeah.
So the good news for me is looking around college football this year, I don't see a 20.
Clemson. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Mitch, what were you going to say?
Well, Carter said something interesting about the secondary being better than last year, which is just weird to think about losing a guy like Marlon and then.
Yeah. Losing a guy like, well, okay, so let me ask you a question. When you say that, are you talking about the secondary when Eddie was still healthy or the secondary after Eddie got hurt?
Me or Carter?
Carter.
Oh.
When you say they're better. I have a hard time saying they're better than the one with Eddie when you had all those guys on the field at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's premature of me. It doesn't feel it feels like they're making better plays down the field.
Maybe. Didn't you though? Let me use that as an opportunity to sort of segue into something. I was one of the only areas where I was sort of disappointed by the performance was that I thought they had a couple busts down the field and created a couple opportunities for some big plays for Ole Miss in that first half.
Well, there were a couple times. There were a couple times when Levi, as much of a field goal as Levi Wallace has been, and he's played fantastic. Do not get me wrong. But this was the first game. I think there were a couple plays where you could see why Levi Wallace was originally a walk-on. He does not have elite speed, and if you get really talented, really fast receivers like Ole Miss has, they're going to get by him sometimes. It's honestly an incredible testament to how well he plays and how good his technique is that they don't do it all the time. Yeah. But he's not that fast.
Yeah, no, he's not. But there was a play. So there was a play very early in the game where he got kind of beaten pretty badly down the field, and I think Patterson overshot the guy. Yeah. But that play to me, I mean, maybe we can pull it up or something, but that play to me, it looked like there was a bust. I thought that he was supposed to have help over the top and they busted. And I thought that wasn't the only one. Patterson had a play to set up their field goal. Patterson had a play where he hit a guy down the field after like rolling out and running around or whatever. Yeah. But that was again a function of the fact that I thought that there should have been help down the field and there wasn't. And on that play, like Mac Wilson was ultimately running down the field at the end of the play because I think that they just didn't have anybody back there. So I think that there were some issues maybe.
Do you remember when the plays you were talking about? I have the full.
The play where they completed the pass was on the drive where they scored the field goal.
Okay, it was 21 at that point.
Yeah, that made it 21-3. So it would have been the drive immediately after. It would have been the drive immediately after they scored the Henches touchdown.
Yeah, I have that drive pulled up. Let me look for the play.
The other one was earlier. The other one was after.
The other one was early. I remember.
It was already. I think it might have been at 14-0. I think the other one was at 14-0 because I think it happened after Levi had his pick six.
Okay. Let's see.
Because I remember thinking after that I was like, oh well, he almost gave it back.
That drive started with a little like quick hitch where somebody missed a tackle. I think maybe.
Yeah. No, there wasn't, and then it's going to be soon after that. Okay, it's going to be very soon after that.
Just go ahead and do screen share, and we'll watch this drive live.
Okay.
So this is the second play of the drive. Should have tried to find the 1 hour version if somebody made it.
Yeah, that's okay though.
Don't need to see this.
There is like a 35 minutes. Yeah, we got an injury.
So yeah, Anthony misses that tackle.
Yeah, I mean these receivers are talented though. They're going to do that to you.
Yeah. There were, we're specifically picking apart for plays where they didn't do well, but ultimately, this team has the Ole Miss team has incredibly talented receivers and a very good quarterback.
Right.
They were averaging 400 passing yards a game, and Alabama held them to 165, despite the fact that Ole Miss was down big the whole game. So it's exactly the recipe for where you could really end up with a lot of meaningless yards through the air, but they ended up with 160.
Right. That's a very important point to make. Yeah. I don't mean to suggest that I don't think that the defense played well and that the secondary played well, because I think they did. I just think that there was a couple sort of busts that I don't really think should have happened. And, well, we'll see one here. I think this is it. Yep. This is it. They got no help over the top. See that? They react to the motion, wind it back.
Yep.
See, that was it. So I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to know exactly what the assignments are.
Right.
But Ronnie's going to come down at the snap. So it looks like they're sort of playing a single high.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's the play to start out with. They're showing two deep safeties.
Right.
Ronnie's going to kind of sneak up. And then on the motion, he kind of sneaks in.
Either Hootie or Minka was supposed to go back and play center field, and nobody did.
Yeah, because now see like Hootie's flying up. I think that they're biting. He's biting on this screen action.
Yeah.
And there you can see over here that there's just nobody in the middle of the field.
Yeah. That's a pretty now the Alabama corners did a pretty good job, it looks like, to stay with the guys, but obviously play goes on for that long and there's only so much you can do. But that's a pretty ugly bust. And there was another one that was similar. Now, not the end of the world, but important to try to stay away from these things against better teams, I think.
Let's see if I can find.
I think it's going to be very similar. This is what can happen. This is why the sort of the late motion and how Alabama, when they're in their cover one sets, where they can bump a safety down, and that's how they react, right? Alabama does not like to have their guys chasing across the field to react to motion. They like to bump a safety down and then roll someone back up over the top. So, but that's which is good because it keeps your defense balanced. But it also involves a lot of communication there in terms of guys reacting really quickly and getting set. So I think that there's going to be something here. I don't know how early it is, but I think Levi is going to get in trouble because he's not going to get any help. It's not here. Oh, this was a nice run. This is when he hurdles him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was a pretty incredible run.
Womp womp, Hootie.
Yeah, happens.
This is staying maximized for y'all, right? It's not like...
Yep.
It's not bumping to anyone else or talking? Okay, good.
Yeah, this was nice. Now, it might be coming up very soon here. Ole Miss is going to challenge you. They're going to make some plays. Schematically, it's just so tough. They're bumped down.
Okay, another cover 2 look. That's a run.
I feel like it might be here.
This would be kind of the part of the field where you'd take a deep shot.
Yep. Nope. Oh.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's let's see if we can wind it back a little bit. I'm not sure what Alabama's in here. They're showing too deep, but I don't think that they're in too deep.
Let's see what it looked like. There was a replay afterwards. Let's see if that gets us a different angle.
Hootie looks like he just stops his feet.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks like he starts out the play, looks like he's getting into his deep half, and then he just stops his feet. Yep, gone.
Yep.
So, and they had him, and Patterson had him, he knows it.
Yep. Okay.
Anyway, not the end of the world. Just again, I mean, we've talked so much about how big plays can be very costly. And we know big plays can be very costly, but especially against Alabama when it's hard to move the ball otherwise. So, you kind of have, there's kind of some, it's so interesting too, because the busts are just a thing against Ole Miss. Alabama busted a number of times last year against Ole Miss. Yep. They put you in such conflicts with all their motion and how they use the whole field and the complexity of the passing game. So, I don't know. It's never a fun matchup because they test you in so many different ways, even if they don't have the talent that they've had in years past.
Right.
Do we want to talk about anything else about the defense? Levi, obviously, have to give him a lot of credit. He's very sound within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Agreed.
He does such a good job to fight and get inside position. Like he's very skilled. He's very skilled there on shorter routes. But I think that what teams are going to start doing is they're going to start testing him down the field. that seems like the answer to me. He's got to make him show that he can play sort of the athletic side to the position more so than just like the technical side to the position.
Right.
But yeah,
we'll see how that goes. Anything else on Ole Miss? Okay. A&M. I don't feel like there's a whole lot to say about this game. A&M has quietly, since their epic collapse against UCLA, put together a perfectly fine four-game win streak. They're not a type of team that's built to challenge Alabama.
right.
They're really, they have a freshman quarterback who's just not that good of a passer. A guy who they didn't expect. Obviously their starter went down against UCLA, and that's part of the reason they lost that game. But Kellen Mond's a true freshman who they really did not expect to be in this role. So they've been really heavily reliant on the run game, which, as we know, is not the way to go about beating Alabama. They have Christian Kirk, who's a very explosive playmaker, and they'll try to get him the ball in a bunch of different ways. But in terms of offense, they just don't have a whole lot of ways to threaten Alabama. I'd be really shocked if they scored more than 10 points. There's not like a bunch of turnovers or something like that.
This is one of those games where I think it's where you really like the fact that Minkah plays star in nickel, because this is exactly the kind of matchup where you want him in the box and around the ball as much as possible, both to be an extra man in the run game. And the back is really good. They're very reliant on the run game, but the back is a very good player.
Yeah.
And then also, because you figure they're going to try to get Kirk the ball very close to the line of scrimmage. And I think it'll be very good to have Minkah sort of down and close there to help against that. So, I like that from a matchup standpoint. I have a hard time thinking. I agree with you. I have a hard time thinking that Alabama's going to have a whole lot of trouble defensively.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, A&M does have a really good pass rush. They have 20 sacks in 5 games, which is pretty impressive. Against not stellar competition, but their defensive line is very strong. Their defensive backs, not so much. So, if they're really selling out to stop the run, like you expect most teams will against Alabama this year, I think there are going to be some opportunities to make plays down the field, which at this point I feel pretty good about their ability to make some of those.
Right.
Even if Jalen's not consistently hitting on sort of the deep shots, he's shown the ability to kind of work the deep middle of the field at this point and hit guys, not always on the sideline routes, on the just go routes and stuff like that, but hitting deep crossers and that sort of thing. So yeah, it might be tough sledding on offense for Alabama for a while. A&M has considerably more talent than the last 2 teams they've played. Yeah. And their defense has been pretty solid, but as long as Alabama comes out and plays sound football and plays anything close to their potential, I don't see this one being terribly close. Neither does Vegas. The line is massive, but yeah.
Do we know what motivation Saban's manufactured for this week?
Age-old question. I don't know. I haven't heard A&M really give them anything. No. There's they lost A&M once upon a time, but none of the players on the team now are on the team then, I don't think.
Yeah, they already got the home game revenge for that one with that 59-0 in 2014.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's almost like the games against A&M have gotten progressively easier since A&M joined the conference. Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough place to play, I guess, Kyle Field.
Yeah.
And Alabama didn't play that well offensively when they were there 2 years ago. That was the game. Ryan Kelly went out with an injury, which I think really hurt them. They kind of weren't prepared for that. But I don't know. I don't think there's any reason to be particularly concerned about this. Admittedly, I guess kind of vapid analysis, but I don't know if I don't know. Let's unless you guys have anything else to say about A&M, let's just talk real quick before we wrap up about the SEC as a whole.
It stinks.
That's probably the most.
I mean, I think at this point, I think it's fair to say that they'd probably have 3 top 10 caliber teams,
including Auburn in that.
Yeah,
yes.
I think there's a pretty clear hierarchy. I think Alabama is a good bit better than Georgia, who is a good bit better than Auburn.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. I'm still in a bit of wait and see mode with Georgia and Auburn, but
you have to be.
Yeah. But I think the potential. I mean, the thing is, both of their defenses are really good,
right?
And I don't think what we've seen from either of them so far on the defensive side of the ball is a fluke. And from looking ahead to a potential SEC championship game matchup, I think Georgia has asked Fromm to pass. He's averaging like 13 passes a game. They are really leaning on the run game.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
they play very pro style. So like, does that offense really threaten you? I don't think so.
No, I think that's a good matchup for Alabama.
Yeah.
Can we pull up the Georgia schedule for a second? Let's talk through that. See how many losses there are on that, because I'm thinking ahead to the national championship game and thinking if that's going to be a semifinal. Because the SEC championship since the playoffs started has not once really been a semifinal game.
Yeah, no, not with the playoffs.
Or I shouldn't say semifinal game. I should say quarterfinal game.
Yeah.
So Vandy this week, Missouri next week.
2 wins.
Florida 2 weeks after that.
Where's that game? Oh, it's in Jacksonville, of course, right? Probably. But that's probably a win.
Yeah, Carolina. You never know with Georgia, and they always seem
cocktail party
to lose to Florida at the least opportune times. But
and then you said South Carolina, Mitch.
Yep.
Where
Auburn,
is that?
At home.
Okay, that's a win.
Presuming they beat Florida, they're really not a threat on the schedule till Auburn, which is
Auburn is in Auburn, right?
Yes.
Auburn gets Georgia and Alabama at home this year.
Yeah, right. That's how it always works out, because it's rotating every other year, so they always get them back to back at home. And then Georgia finishes up against Georgia Tech.
Yep. And Kentucky in between the two.
Well, is there any? I mean, I don't know. Auburn is
the worst.
What did I say again? Oh,
yeah.
10-2 at the worst. Yeah. But even that's kind of hard to see a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's losing to both Florida and Auburn.
Now, is there any chance that Alabama has a loss before the Iron Bowl?
0.
Is it 0?
It's 0.
Unless like Ed O, taking his hands off the offense and letting Matt Canada shift to his heart's content, just unleashes LSU's talent. Although I think like Bud Elliott actually had a good piece on SB Nation earlier this week talking about how LSU really does not have the talent in the trenches that they
had in the past. Yeah.
They've they've signed like 16 offensive and defensive linemen over the last couple of signing classes, and all but like 5 of them are gone.
You can't beat Alabama like that without you
and with the quarterback they have.
Like if Alabama has a loss before the Iron Bowl, it would be an absolutely shocking upset. Like there's no team that you look at on the schedule right now and say like that team could beat Alabama.
It would be a loss unlike any that Saban has ever had since his first year.
Yep,
pretty much.
Who's the biggest threat?
I mean, I might still say Mississippi State, but even they don't look.
They look bad though.
Let's just quickly run through the Alabama schedule.
So A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, MSU, Mercer, Auburn.
I mean, in Tennessee, Mississippi State, like what?
Tennessee is not.
Maybe A&M. It might be A&M.
Is it? Okay.
Tennessee is not beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
No.
Not this Tennessee team. And Arkansas plays in Tuscaloosa. Arkansas, that's also in Tuscaloosa, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, come on. Yeah.
Mississippi State's on the road.
Mississippi State's on the road. It's always sort of interesting. But, man, Mississippi State does not look good. Everybody got super excited after the LSU game.
Yeah, and the two elite defenses in a row, and they've put up 13 points, and what's the combined score been? 80 to 13. I mean, they've gotten flat out embarrassed.
That's the best quarterback that Alabama is going to see, I guess.
That's fair.
So that counts for something. In fact, that's probably the best quarterback that Alabama is going to see all season. Is that the best quarterback they're going to see all season through the SEC championship game?
Is he better than Francois?
Yeah.
Man, either way. Oh, what was it last? So last year the quarterbacks were Kelly,
the best quarterbacks they played last year were probably like Kelly, and then the two playoff ones, right? Kelly, Browning, Watson. They didn't pay, like Darnold wasn't at USC yet. I don't think he would. I think it probably, if he had started as a freshman, he wouldn't have been as good as he was later in that year.
Trevor Knight sucks.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs sucks.
Etling sucks.
Allen at Arkansas. He was good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
he was good.
He's still there. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
But that team is not as good as
no. That Arkansas team's bad. It's just incredible. Like we were talking about this a little bit before the show started. This is the easiest road that they've had ever under Saban.
Yeah.
Are there any
probably?
Because you look at this situation. Well, okay. I guess here's the big question though. Here's the big question.
Apparently, Coach O's radio show is a shit show right now.
I give him credit for showing up at least. You know, could you imagine what Saban's radio show would be like if they lost to fucking Troy? Can you imagine the calls that they would be getting? Imagine what it would be like if they lost to Texas A&M. I mean,
Ogeron to a critical caller. I earned the job, whether you like it or not.
When you're having a clap back against callers at your weekly radio show, the nobody callers that
Yeah.
A caller calls Joe Aleva. That's how you pronounce the AD's name, right?
Yeah, the idea. Yeah.
Caller calls Joe Aleva more of a feminine personality. Ogeron defends him. Which was it Cam Newton calling in?
Yeah, what was that stuff with Cam today?
A beat writer, a Panthers beat writer, asked him a question. I remember, but it was like a good question, like a really a deep
something about like routes and stuff, right?
A question and she said something in there about receivers running routes, and Cam just he chuckled during the question and then went, "It's funny to see females talk about routes."
Oh my god.
And then she didn't bring it this got out, and she tweeted something about it's my job, blah blah blah, I'm going to be a professional. But then she said something that's like, by the way, I talked to Cam afterwards, and it she tried to confront him afterwards, and she didn't say what he said. She was like, I'm not going to do that, but apparently she said it did not, it was worse when she tried to confront him about it.
It sucks. I this is probably sacrilegious to say it on this podcast, but you probably know where this is going. I like Cam a lot.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm really disappointed to hear that.
You're disappointed to hear that I feel that way?
No, that he said that. because I like him.
Because you like him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sort of has. He's like, I think he's called like women like reporters and stuff like sweetheart before.
Okay, see, I didn't know about that.
This
I didn't know about it.
coming. I have weird feelings about Cam because obviously I like, was not fond of him from an Alabama fan perspective.
Right.
But like, I don't know, like when they were making, there was so much like basically racist crap that was said about him, especially during that MVP year when he was dancing. There were, people
right.
saying dog whistle crap about him, not setting an example when they were talking about him dancing in the end zone.
And then the stuff about after the Super Bowl with the interviews or whatever, when he was like kind of giving short answers to their stupid fucking questions. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. You can't say stuff like that, though.
Yeah, I ended up defending him at times a couple years ago, but there's no defending this. That was terrible.
Even if he feels that way, like even if he actually feels that way, I can't believe he would say it. Not that it makes it any better, you know what I mean? Not that it makes it any better for him to think it but not say it. But I just can't believe that he would be so unaware.
At a press conference, like
where everybody can hear, where everybody's going to tweet out your quotes, like that. I mean, I guess Cam just doesn't give a shit. Which he's kind of showing, right? His whole career has been like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not going to do what's expected of me. Like, I'm not going to show up after the Super Bowl and answer your questions, like everybody else would. But this is just, I mean, very overtly sexist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. I don't know. That's incredible to me. That's really, really, really incredible that he would say that.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the state of the SEC.
So I have a question. So
okay.
we talked about the SEC championship being a potential play-in game. What about the Iron Bowl?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that too.
I think there's a very real possibility where Alabama gets to the last week of the regular season and is basically playing in a sort of like a 4-round playoff, because how likely is it that even if they're not necessarily an elite top 10 team, how likely is it that Auburn loses twice before the Iron Bowl?
Does Auburn have another? What does Auburn have another loss on their schedule?
Georgia, maybe.
Besides Georgia, I don't think so. Like, okay, their schedule from here on out is LSU in Baton Rouge, which I don't know if LSU.
You never know, right? I mean, you never know. When is that game?
LSU's next week.
It's this week, next week.
Oh, sorry, next week. They have
this week is Ole Miss.
This week's Ole Miss, yeah.
It's Ole Miss, Baton Rouge. I don't know.
Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Georgia, ULM, and then Alabama. Like, I would be surprised if they lose 2 of those games.
I'd kind of be surprised if they lost to Georgia.
Just being in Auburn, like
and
how
if their offense is as good as it's looked the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not. I mean, Georgia's defense, their defensive line is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. I think Georgia in that game right now, but
that's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, it's gonna be. That's one's gonna be really entertaining. Either way, I feel pretty comfortable saying that they probably don't lose 2 games before the Iron Bowl, which means basically the Iron Bowl is for the SEC West, and then I mean, you think Georgia's going to lose? Like, I doubt Georgia loses.
Georgia's not going to lose besides Auburn.
Yeah. So basically, the winner of Alabama-Auburn wins the West and plays Georgia in the SEC championship, and the winner of that game goes to the playoff.
Unless
there are 4 Power 5 unbeatens.
Well, maybe not though, because Auburn could have 2 losses in this scenario.
Oh, right. I keep forgetting that Auburn has a
loss to Clemson.
Yeah. So yeah,
that creates more interest.
If Auburn loses to Georgia and then beats Alabama, that sort of throws a wrench in the works.
Right. Yeah. But see, the interesting thing though, right, is that Auburn game is probably still going to be a must-win for Alabama.
Yeah,
Because the only way,
because even if Auburn has to have two losses, two SEC losses,
right?
For Alabama to have sewn up the West going into the Iron Bowl, and I don't think that's terribly likely.
Now, Mitch, you're still thinking at 11-1 Alabama can get in.
I mean, just think about like
they don't have any. They're not going to have any wins. They're not going to have any wins.
Yeah, if they don't beat Auburn, they really might not have a ranked win on.
What's your case?
My case is going to be that they're going to have been the number one team
the whole year,
the entire season by a giant.
And they're going to be outscoring teams. They're going to be doing like 2013 Florida State against teams every week.
And they lose at Auburn to a good team, and maybe they limp in at 3 or 4 into the playoff. And I can't see them having been a dominant number one team, lose one game, and then fall all the way out of the playoff.
I would love it if that were the case. I don't think I think the committee still puts too much of an emphasis on the resume factor. I think it would still be clear to anyone in that case, especially if Auburn ends up 11-1 and it looks like a really elite.
Wait, so do we think that they won't be like a giant number one coming into that game?
What do you mean giant number one? Clemson will be right on their heels.
Okay. So Clemson and Alabama 1-2 with a big gap between them and 3.
Yeah,
because your resume doesn't change that much. If coming into that game they are a solid, your resume doesn't change that much just because you lose.
I mean, Oklahoma could be up pretty high too, right? Oklahoma could be. Does Oklahoma have a loss on their schedule?
The top tier of the Big 12 is pretty decent. They could lose to Oklahoma State. They could lose to TCU.
I mean, they almost lost to Baylor this week.
Yeah,
but that plays to their favor though, right? Because if Oklahoma does win out, that's a pretty highly ranked.
Yeah.
It's always so early to talk about this stuff because we always say like this team wins out and this team wins out and this team wins out and like one of those teams wins out at most.
Yeah,
right. I mean that's kind of what I'm banking on here. Like,
yeah, everybody loses, and it doesn't necessarily have to be to a good team, as we saw last year with Michigan. And with Michigan and Clemson on the same day, dropping sort of very unexpected games.
Yeah.
Now Clemson, is Clemson? That's I guess the most interesting question. What's Clemson's schedule?
I think their remaining challenging games are like NC State and Florida State.
Yeah.
Florida State is at home, I think.
The remaining schedule: Wake Forest, Syracuse, bye week, Georgia Tech, NC State, Florida State, Citadel, South Carolina.
Where's the NC State game?
Raleigh.
I just think they're too good to lose that game.
I mean, probably.
I think they're going 13-0.
The only problem I see, and Bill Connolly made this point in an article this week, is that Clemson hasn't. Like their defensive, basically the only part of their team that has been down in and down out elite is the defensive line.
Defensive line, yeah.
They've basically been good on offense for like 6 or 7 drives,
right?
The whole year, aside from against Kent State. Yeah, they were good more against the two good defenses on their schedule, like. Auburn, they had a great drive at the end of the first half, and they had a great drive in the beginning of the second half, and then had
nothing.
Yeah, they had. I looked at it was 19 plays for 40 yards before the first scoring drive, and 29 plays for 60 yards afterwards.
The Auburn defense played well in that game.
They did. And they did sort of similar things against Virginia Tech. Like they scored more, but there were a lot of times where they were just sort of playing. They've been playing extremely conservatively, except in sort of pressure moments on offense. And I don't know. I think they're kind of playing with fire in that sense. Like, I think they're significantly better than everyone else on their schedule. But, if you continue to just play super conservatively and expect that you'll turn it on when you have to, like, that can come back to bite you.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're right. Yeah, I get that. I definitely do. They clearly the offense is not going to be what it was last year.
Right.
Even if the quarterback makes a lot of strides, like they just don't have the same players. And they really lost like so many players.
Yeah.
They lost Leggett. They lost all
Mike Williams, Watson, Gallman. I mean,
Jordan Leggett.
Yeah. You could argue that's their four best players is Watson, Gallman, Williams, and Leggett.
Yeah.
They have Kane back and they have Renfro.
Yeah.
But that's a lot. Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough. It's interesting to see a Clemson team kind of almost more built on the defense than built on the offense. Anyway,
I like their linebackers and secondary aren't special.
No, not elite.
Like the line is the line is the best in the country.
Them and Georgia are really, really, really
they're
good.
So dominant on the defensive line, and as we've seen, that can make up for a lot of faults.
Right.
That defensive line is going to basically win several of their games single-handed.
Yeah.
Probably the Florida State game, I would say that like Florida State's just not going to do anything on offense that game because poor Blackman, who is like 6'5" and 120 soaking wet, is going to get snapped in half on like the third play of that game.
Yeah. But I guess the upshot here from the Alabama perspective is that they probably have to win out to make the playoff.
Unless by some, crazy.
Unless Auburn loses 2 games. Unless Auburn loses 2 SEC games, Alabama probably has to win out because they're going 11-0.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say the only circumstance in which they don't win out and
if they lose to like A&M or something.
Yeah, which is not going to happen. So basically, the only opportunity for a loss is Auburn.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting scenario where on one hand, this is Alabama's easiest road based on the schedule, but on the other hand, this is really the first time where you can very confidently say, or not very confidently, but somewhat confidently say that they can't really lose a game.
Yeah. Well, it's a consequence of the fact that the SEC is basically one really, really elite team, 2 very good teams, and then a bunch of terrible.
And those terrible teams aren't going to beat anybody. So the opportunities for losses, not just for Alabama, but for Auburn and Georgia, are just so few and far between.
Right.
That you just can't have an opportunity where your competition is going to rack up losses.
So does a 2-loss Auburn that beats the team that beat them in the regular season get consideration?
So a 2-loss Auburn loses to Clemson and who else?
Georgia. But then they beat Georgia in the SEC.
They beat Alabama and then they beat Georgia.
Alabama and beat Georgia.
Definitely consideration.
I think that team has a very good case. Yeah.
Definitely consideration. It's interesting. It's obviously you think back to the Penn State Ohio State situation, but there probably isn't another team. Like Ohio State got in over Penn State. But in that situation, would there be another SEC team that would get in over? That would see Mitch. You would make the point that the Ohio State of last year should be the Alabama of this year in that scenario.
But the difference the reason Ohio State got in over Penn State was that Penn State had lost
to Pittsburgh.
They lost to Pitt,
right.
And they got destroyed by Michigan.
Right.
It was like 49-10. It was an absolute annihilation.
Right. In this scenario, you're going to have Auburn losing a very close game at Clemson, which at that point is probably going to be the number 1 team in the country if Alabama loses in that scenario. And they're going to be losing probably a tough game to Georgia, who's going to be the eventual SEC West champion, who then they're going to get revenge over and beat again in the SEC championship at neutral site. So, Alabama's not.
if like for Alabama to get in that scenario, it would have to be 2 SEC teams because I don't.
Right.
I do think that's what has to happen.
Alabama is not going to have the resume that Ohio State had.
Right.
Ohio State had a win in Norman. They had a win at home against Michigan. They had a win against Wisconsin. So that's like that's a pretty good resume that they're putting forward there. Not like the resume that Alabama's going to have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just in terms of quality wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Alabama's resume is going to be impressive in other regards.
Right.
The fact that they're just going to kill everybody else on their schedule.
And I'm still holding out hope that Florida State's gonna improve a little bit, and that Alabama, and that at least the committee is going to give some recognition to the fact that they played that Florida State would have been a whole lot better if Francois had not gone down. But whether that's enough to get them in at 11-1, and 2 SEC teams in is a different question.
That's another thing that bothers me when you look at wins over teams based on where they are ranked at the end of the season and not where they were at the time that you beat the team. Like,
you need to do a little bit of both.
I agree.
Right?
I think there needs to be a little bit of both.
You need to do a little bit of both.
Because you can have a ranked win, like a good ranked win over a team that turns out to not have been that good. So you can't solely off what they were ranked at the time you beat them. But at the same time, like, you kind of have to factor in how injuries and how well they were playing at the time you came.
These are things that we've talked about going back to the first year we did this podcast, which is taking a very holistic view of a team's resume. And part of a holistic view of a team's resume is looking at how quality, what sort of quality is this win based on a number of different factors.
Right.
And it's people oversimplify it by saying, okay, well, we're going to judge it based on how it finished. Well, USC finished amazing last year. Alabama should not get credit for beating that USC team, right? But
certainly not for beating them 52-6.
Right. But at the same time, so you can't necessarily grade based on where the team ended up. But also, like, I'm just trying to think of just a real easy example. Alabama opened the 2012 season, and Michigan was the number 8 team in the country, and they killed Michigan. Well, they shouldn't get credit that year at the end on their resume for beating the number 8 team in the country after Michigan went like I don't know 7-5 or something, and they were fucking terrible because Denard Robinson was their quarterback. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it always cuts in so many different ways, which is why you have to view everything in conjunction with each other.
Right.
There's no one way to see it, so it's tough. I agree with Mitch. It's you can't just look at where they ended up. But you also can't look at just where they were then. You've got to just see every factor combined, and like it's tough. It's very tough to do that. But anyway, we've probably run a little over here on this.
So yeah, I think we'll wrap up there for this week. And we'll see y'all next week before Arkansas, I guess. I think it's next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see y'all then, and roll tide.
Roll Tide.